If you guys are new to a Cricut machine and you're just now learning about iron-on, also known as heat transfer vinyl, make sure you guys stay tuned because today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about heat transfer vinyl. Hi, I'm Crystal. Welcome to Design Bundle's YouTube channel. If you guys are new, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as that notification bell down below so you don't miss any of our crafting tutorials. First things first, we are going to go over the supplies that I'm using today. I'm actually going to be doing a baby onesie, baby bodysuit, if you will. You could definitely snag these in most places, locally as well as online. I'm going to have everything I'm using today linked down below. Now, keep in mind that we are using heat transfer today, which is also known as iron-on, and you can purchase this most places. Locally as well, craft stores, even Walmart, Target, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, just to name a few, and even the Dollar Tree has their very own now. They have adhesive vinyl as well as iron-on. I'm not a huge fan, but that doesn't mean that you may not be a huge fan of it. I do have my favorites when it comes to heat transfer vinyl, and that is Siser. So Siser has won it for me for quite some time. So I've definitely been using Siser for years and years and years, and I've tested a lot of different brands, and Siser is still and currently my favorite. Who knows? Somebody could knock it out eventually, but right now it is definitely Siser. And if you want to get real specific, Siser Sparkle, which I'll show you as well in just a minute. So make sure you guys stay tuned because you guys don't want to miss any of this stuff today, especially if you guys are just now learning about heat transfer vinyl. I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks, especially when it comes to layering. We're going to go over that today, the important things that you need to know when it comes to that. You're also going to need a heat press of some sort, or you can also use a home iron. You can definitely accomplish this with your home iron, so don't feel like you have to run out and grab yourself a Cricut Easy Press or even go all the way to the big heat press. Always start out small and make sure you're going to love that craft, perfect it, and then you can move on to something bigger and better. So I started out with a home iron. I've done many of shirts using that. If you definitely want us to do a tutorial on that from start to finish with a home iron, definitely let us know in the comments below. For today's project, I'm actually going to be using the Cricut 9x9. This is the Cricut Easy Press 3. So this is their latest model. It's technically the same as the second version, but this one actually runs off of an app that will send it straight to it. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do to set times and all those different things, especially pressing in between layers. You could do a lot of that stuff in the app. So make sure you guys definitely check that out as well. But you could definitely still accomplish this even with a Cricut Easy Press 1. If that's the one that you guys have, just know when it comes to like sublimation, it doesn't get past, I think, like 380. And that's just honestly the difference. So if you're at a yard sale and you see the very first Cricut Easy Press for 20 bucks, snag it. It's gonna work perfect with your HTV projects. So don't worry about that. But like I said, I'm using the Cricut 9x9 today. You could definitely use a bigger heat press. This is a swing away. I get a lot of questions all the time of which one this is. This is the Stahls A to Z, and I'll have it linked down below for you. It is perfect and beginner friendly if you guys are looking for something bigger. It's a 15x15 and it's a swing away. I really, really love it and highly recommend. Stahls is very well known in the garment community, whether it's crafting or even all the way up to business. They're actually more in the business, but this is kind of like their crafting or just beginner series of their bigger heat press. So you're gonna need some heat of some sort, and then you're gonna need a die cutting machine. Now today I'm using the Cricut Explorer 3. You could definitely use your older models of your Cricuts, or even if you have a Silhouette, Brother, whatever die cutting machine that you have, you can still follow along. I'm going to be using parchment paper today. This is perfect for layering your HTV project, so I highly recommend you check it out. I like to get it in the pre-cut sheets. Once again, it's linked down below, but you could definitely purchase this at your local stores in a roll. It's in the baking section. You could also use a Teflon sheet, which is something you can use over and over and over again, like where these are kind of disposable. I can still use these over and over again too, but this is more disposable, where a Teflon sheet, you're going to be able to use it for years and years to come. Last but not least, you're going to need yourself a Cricut heat pad of some sort, depending on what size of machine that you're using. You can even get a generic of this if you want to. You could create your own pressing pads, honestly, but I'm going to be using the Cricut one here. I don't even think they sell this one anymore. It has the cute little dots on it. I've had it forever. So I've got a pressing pad here, and we are ready to go. For today's design, I'm really excited because we're going to be using the Blooming Crafters bundle. And a little backstory from this, our friend Brittany, if you guys are familiar with our Facebook community group, even Facebook I think in general, Instagram, you've seen her down in the comments on YouTube, she actually put together this bundle and it is so much fun. I'm so excited for it, and it is just full of spring, Easter, you guys name it. It is so good. Even down to it's softball season, baseball season, all of that stuff is in here. We've got planting our garden stuff. It's just loaded. It is so good. Out of that bundle, we're going to be using this one right here and create that baby onesie like I said. So many cute ones, whether we are doing Easter bunnies or these super cute chicks. So I thought it would be so cute to do this one right here that says I'm here for the chicks. It has that adorable yellow chick in there, and I do a lot with bunnies, I feel like, on our tutorials, so I wanted to switch it up with a little chick here. Now, these would also be good to put on Easter tote bags, the t-shirts. You could even do youth t-shirts, probably all the way up to 5th grade. I think this would be acceptable. And so you could put it on there, put their Easter totes, all of those fun things. I'm so excited for it. So like I said, we're gonna do this one right here. So I'm gonna get ready to download this, and we're gonna head on over to Cricut Design Space. Alright, so now that we're over here in Cricut Design Space, I've got my file here. We're ready to size this guy out and get ready to go. But before we do, a little tip is, whenever you guys are over here in Cricut Design Space starting to design everything out and get ready to cut it, before you do, go ahead and turn on whether it's your home iron, your Cricut Easy Press, or your bigger heat press. Especially a bigger heat press is going to take a whole lot longer to heat up than something like your home iron. So the Cricut Easy Press, I have it set at 320 for 30 seconds. Now, a tip, if you guys are wondering how do you find the temperature for a specific type of heat transfer vinyl, there's a few different ways. Number one, if you're using the Cricut heat guide, say for example with the Cricut Easy Press 3, and you're using the app, you can actually put in that I'm using Everyday Iron-On, which is the exact same thing as Siser EasyWeed, and a basic, any sort of basic iron-on, minus your bigger, thicker glitters and holographics and all of those things, is going to be the exact same heat settings as the Everyday Iron-On. So you could go in there, you can choose that you're going to be setting it with the Cricut Everyday Iron-On, you're doing a baby onesie or a t-shirt, you're using that pad, and it's going to give you the exact time and temp. Now, another thing that you guys definitely can do as well is go over to Cricut. I'll try to link it down below. They even have a heat guide which was made for the 1st and 2nd models, and you could go in there, choose your press, and do the exact same thing without using that heat guide. And I actually even saved that before I got the Cricut Easy Press 3. I actually saved that to the front screen of my iPhone. So if you guys want to know how can you save something like that without using an app to the front screen, definitely let me know in the comments below and we can do a tutorial on that one as well. Now, another way that you guys can definitely do that, so for example, I'm using Siser EasyWeed. You can head on over to Siser's website. Once again, I'll try to link it down below for you guys, and you can choose your material. So I can go in there and say I'm using the Siser EasyWeed. Underneath all of the specifications, you're gonna see where it gives you the recommended cut settings for your Cricut, your silhouette, all of those things, and your time and temp, whether it's a hot peel, cold peel, and you could create yourself some cheat sheets as well. So we've actually done that before. We've actually created some cheat sheets for you. So I will try to link that one down below, but there's so many different ones out there, and that's a good one too. You could definitely create your own once you figure out, and you can do something like that on Canva, all sorts of different places. So there's a few more tips. And so we've got it 320 for 30 seconds. So now let's get back over here to Cricut Design Space and size this guy out. Figuring out our measurements, you want to take yourself a little ruler. This is like a sewing ruler here, and you just want to go in here and figure out about how wide you want it to be. So for me, I want to go about 6 inches, possibly about 5.5 inches wide. I really don't want to go any wider than 5.5. And then here we could probably get away with about 5.5 inches as well. So let's go and start with our width here first. So we're going to select everything, come up here to our width. We're going to select it. We're just going to hit 5. I'm going to hit 5.5, and we're going to see what that gives us. So that gives us 4.6 high. So let's see where that lands us. So that's gonna get us right about there, which is perfect. So one thing you wanna pay attention to with a baby bodysuit or onesie, you may have some shorts on here or some pants, and you can end up with that design too low and you're gonna cover some. So you kind of wanna stay within this window here. And when you come to a baby onesie, you only wanna go around 2 fingers or so down, sometimes even 1, just kind of depending on the design. And I'll show you that here in a bit, because if you go too far down, when you put that on the baby, you're actually gonna end up somewhere in the tummy area. Ask me how I know, because I was a newbie once too, and I still every once in a while end up doing something like that. I don't even know how. I don't know how I did it. If you guys have been guilty of that, raise your hand in the comments below, because I think we've all done it, and I'm pretty sure we're all still doing it. All right, so here we go. So we're happy with this. I think this is gonna be perfect. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different layers, because you can't count this because these 2 oranges are going to go together on the same mat. So we've got 5 different colors here, so we're going to have 5 different mats. Now let's go and get ready to cut it out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go up here to make it. Next, if you guys have a Cricut Explorer 3 or a Maker 3, you may notice where it says without the mat, because that's for smart materials, or a card mat, multiple ways, all those kind of things. I'm going to be choosing on the mat, and then we're going to go ahead and hit confirm. Here we go. So the next thing that you need to know when it comes to heat transfer vinyl is you have to mirror it. So this is a big mistake that a lot of us newbies make. We forget to mirror, and I think a lot of us still do it. A lot of people do a little tip by adding a little saying right here on the front of the Cricut that says, don't forget to mirror. There's so many different fun ways. Now Cricut will remind you again when you choose it, and I'll show you guys that in just a bit. But to do so, all you're gonna do is click on every single mat, and right down here it says mirror. So we wanna make sure and turn it on for every single one. And sometimes I'll even go back on the way up just to double check I didn't forget anything. So I'm gonna go through here and just select all of these just like so. So on the way back up, we're gonna just double check. I'm clicking on everybody and making sure I'm seeing that green light. Perfect. Now, if you want to eliminate mats, you can definitely combine all of these onto one mat. So I know my black's over here. I would come over to my next one. You would click on these 3 dots, say move object, and we would move it over here into another corner, and that way I can just cut those down to size, and that way I'll load it one time. I'm not going to do that today, just to show you guys all the way through the process. But one thing I do want to do on this orange one is pay attention to make sure nothing's touching, because I've got my little nose and then my legs. I think everything looks good, and I'm ready to go. Now, before you get started, if you don't want to load all your material on the mat, because these are such small pieces, you could take your paper trimmer and go ahead and cut these down ahead of time. All right, so I've got my paper trimmer here. So for this one, you can see right here that we've got about 1 by 2 inches. So I'm gonna leave it with this. It's probably 2 inch. I'm gonna do like a 2 by 2 inch. I'm just gonna get that up there and trim. Highly recommend, if you wanna buy one thing to go along with your Cricut, it's gonna be a paper trimmer. And it doesn't have to be the Cricut brand. Just get yourself a paper trimmer, because it's gonna be amazing for your adhesive vinyl and your HTV projects. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move on to my next color. So before I hit continue, I like to get this out of the way so I can go over each one. So for my next one, we've got a 2 by 3. So I'm gonna grab my next color, which is going to be this orange. I wanted to show you guys today. So I have a Siser orange here, really, really pretty. But then I have the Siser Sparkle. So remember how I was talking about my favorite Siser material, which is Siser Sparkle? This is glitter heat transfer vinyl, glitter iron-on. Except for it feels 100% identical to the Siser EasyWeed. There's no texture. When it comes to using heat transfer vinyl for the glitter, it is so thick. You're gonna have to use a different cut setting compared to your EasyWeed. It's gonna be thicker. You're gonna feel that glitter, especially for a baby. You don't want them to be roughing up on their arms or anything like that. I love it. There's several colors to choose from. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna try to bring it up here so hopefully you guys can see a little bit better of that color and shine. I always feel like this camera comes in so much better. But this glitter is gorgeous. Love this orange. So I was so back and forth. I've always got to add that little zing when it comes to the design. So everything's going to be a solid, and his legs and his nose is going to be this little bit of glitter, just to give it that little bit. If you guys have that problem, also let me know in the comments below. All right, so we're going to be using this one today. So we're going to go ahead and cut it by the 2 by 3. So you always want to start with the smaller number first, so you waste less material. So we're gonna go with the 2. We're gonna cut it, And then now we're gonna get the 3. So we're just gonna get it over there. The difference between using a paper trimmer and a pair of scissors, I'm gonna get a straight cut every time. So when I go back to use this later, there's not gonna be a piece I really need to cut off because it's just so wonky. So highly recommend once again. All right, so I'm gonna keep on going here. We've got our yellow. I'm gonna do it, so you can see that this is coming over a little bit into the 5. I'm gonna do 4.5 by 4. So I'm gonna do 4.5 by 4. And so we're gonna do that now. So we're gonna go ahead and get the 4 first. All right, and then we have to pay attention when I go to load this on the mat that I'm loading it correctly. And then I'm gonna get it 4.5. I probably could have got away with about 4.25, but I don't want to risk it. So 4.5, I'll make sure and load that correctly, so it needs to go in this direction here. And then we're gonna move on to the next color. Same thing, we've got a 4 by 4.5, so we're gonna start out with a smaller one. So we're gonna do 4, all right, by 4.5. So once again, I've got another one. I need to make sure and pay attention. But for this one, it's gonna be sideways. So I've got to pay attention to that. And we're gonna move on to the last layer. And that looks like it's about a 4 by 4. So perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So I only have 2 of them that I need to pay attention to. Everything else is pretty even. So we're gonna go ahead and do a 4 by 4. There we have it. All right, so now that we've trimmed everything out, we are ready to continue. So we're gonna go ahead and hit the continue button. And now we're ready to choose our material. So for the Siser EasyWeed, or even if you're using any sort of basic pretty much, you should be able to get away with using the everyday iron-on. Always do a test cut just to see if that works for you. So we're gonna choose everyday iron-on. Now this is what's important. All of these are the same settings, including that sparkle, because it's basically Siser EasyWeed, but it's got some sparkle to it. So same cut settings. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, so it doesn't ask me every single time, I'm gonna come down here, see where it says remember material settings. We're gonna turn that guy on and we're ready. Now you notice, once again, I told you Cricut was gonna warn you again, because we chose iron-on material, it's warning again to say make sure to turn that on. So it's giving you another option. If you need to go back, you're just gonna click edit and you can go back and do those from the same screen. We are ready to load our material on the mats. We're gonna start off with that black. I'm using my blue mat. It's one of my favorites. I use the blue or the green mat when it comes to my iron-on. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy ready. So we're gonna find our black. When it comes to heat transfer vinyl, you want to put the glossy side down. Now, in some circumstances, it has to go up. For example, puff HTV, which puffs up like popcorn, you're actually putting the glossy side up and then the matte side down. So there's a difference there. There's another one where, for example, there is a pattern. For example, with Sparkleberry's heat transfer vinyl, she doesn't have a mask on there and you've got to put the design upward. So those kind of things you got to pay attention to. But 90% of heat transfer vinyl, you want that glossy side down, matte side up. So we're gonna get that gloss down in our corner over here and we're gonna get ready to cut it. So we are going to load this. We're getting the flashing arrow up. We're gonna load it under the white feet and let it go in there so we get ready to cut it. All right, so we're getting our flashing go. We're gonna hit go. This cut piece should be so fast because it's literally just a little border pretty much. So it's not gonna take long to cut all of these pieces. As you can see, that fast, it's over with. We're gonna go ahead and unload. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this guy off of the mat and we're gonna load our next color, which is that orange. So I wanna be mindful of how to load this. If you need to remember, if you hover above that mat, you can look at it again to say, okay, it's gonna go right here. So I'm putting that glossy side down. We are ready to go. So we're going to load it again. If your Cricut tries to fall asleep, simply just hit the plus or the minus button and you're gonna be good to go. So we're gonna load this, we're gonna cut it again. Same thing, these are really just like outline pieces. So all 3 of the first ones are gonna go pretty quick and then it may take another second for the last 2 because there's a bunch of pieces compared to these. All right, getting that flashing, we're gonna cut it out again. So while that one's going, in between each one, we'll start to weed everything out. So I've got a little piece down here I could actually cut, but I don't think I'll be able to use it for anything. So I'm just gonna grab me a corner here and weed it out. So we've got our first one right here. Look at how adorable these glasses are, adorable. Now if you notice it's cut off because it's gonna go underneath another piece there. So we're gonna set that aside, unload it. We're going to unload this off the mat and we're gonna grab our next one. So for our next one, it's the yellow one. And so for this one, let me double check because I do believe we had that 4.5. So let's make sure we have it in the right direction. So perfect, 4.5. And we are ready. So we are gonna load it and let it cut out. Once again, this one's gonna go so quick too because it's just the outline. So I'm gonna weed out my next one, and you guys are not gonna believe how good this sparkle is. If y'all have not tried Siser's sparkle, now there's also Twinkle. That one is thicker. The way I always describe it is it's almost like a rain jacket feel. It's thicker and it just feels like a rain jacket. So that would be perfect to customize hats and all sorts of different things. Everything has a time and place for it, but this sparkle just basically replaces glitter HTV, and it stays with that EasyWeed. But I'm gonna bring this up so hopefully without that layer there, you guys can see all that sparkle and shine. It is so, so good. All right, get that out of the way. Now, one thing that you can do is you can take a parchment paper, so as we start to layer these guys up, because this stuff will not stick to parchment. So I can actually start to stick these layers on there. So we're gonna undo this, unload this guy, and we're gonna get ready for the next one. So it's gonna be that darker purple. I'm going to hover above it. I believe we're gonna be going in this direction. So I'm gonna make sure that this is gonna go to that 4.5, perfect. We're gonna load it up, and we're gonna let it cut out. All right, so going back in here once again, I was trying to find my Siser sparkle. There's one, I think it's called Buttercup. There's a yellow as well, and I was trying to find it before I got started because I would have made my whole entire chick glitter and then had the normal orange legs, and that would have been just so, so cute. So y'all make sure you check out the yellow sparkle as well. You can definitely do it with the glitter if you want to, but if you're trying to avoid that texture, especially when it comes to a baby, even some kids don't like texture. So you could definitely go with a sparkle, but you're gonna have way more glitter options when it comes to like Siser's glitters. There's tons of other brands, but to me personally, just love that Siser. All right, so we've got our little chick here, so we'll lay that guy down, and then we are gonna get ready to load our last layer. I'm gonna go ahead and separate those. So I've got the nose and my legs because those are not gonna go together. Those were separate pieces. We're gonna unload, and we're gonna ready to load the very last one. So same thing. This one I believe was just a 4x4 square, so I don't need to hover over that one. And we are ready. So we're going to load it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start weeding this one, and then I'll hit the go button on this at the same time. And so you guys can see it didn't ask me every single time of what material I was using because I hit remember. So if you're ever struggling with that and it's driving you crazy, there is a little thing that you guys can actually check, because I remember before I didn't realize that, and I was like, this is driving me crazy. I'm having to pick this every single time. All right, so I'm just gonna go through here and weed out my couple of pieces here. All right, and one more. All right, so hopefully you guys can see here. So you're gonna have here for the chicks. So we're gonna get that guy out of the way, and we're gonna get ready to weed our very last piece. So when you guys are working on a project, like I said, always be prepared. Always, if you're wanting to do something pretty quickly, have your heat press going. You may have to click it a couple times, and you probably could have turned it on more once you were cutting and get those going there, because you've got to cut and then you got to weed. And then if you'll weed in between each cut, you're going to be able to accomplish that pretty quickly. So you guys seen how fast that was going for me. All right, so we are weeding out our very last one, and these colors here are very spring colors. I love, love, love them. And there we have it. And so I think I've got two little pieces to pull out. This one. And this one. All right, so we've got our last one. I'm gonna lay it right there. I'm gonna clean up this mess, and we're gonna be ready to customize our very first onesie. So whenever it comes to layering, so if you have multiple colors here, you're gonna wanna go ahead and line those up first so we can figure out where it's gonna go on the t-shirt. So once again, I like to use some parchment paper for this. And so we're going to try to line this up by what's going down first, okay? So I wanna try to get my chick first, and then we're gonna line up these pieces. There's these little cut lines for where these layers are gonna go in between. And so we are now just gonna kind of line this up. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but it wants to be pretty close, because I'm gonna show you why in just a second. Okay, so I'm gonna line that one up there. All right, so we're gonna go in with that next layer. which should be right about there. Once again, it's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty close. And then we're gonna have our next one, which is our glasses. So it's gonna kind of butt up against that M there. I'll even actually go in here with a pair of scissors, cut off some of that plastic because I don't want to fuss with it. So I'm actually going to get that up against that M there. And even this nose, I'm even actually going to have my nose go underneath my glasses a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my nose underneath. All right, so I just stuck that to the back of that, and then I will line up those glasses. So now I can kind of see that there. Last piece we have is our legs. All right, so visually looking at this, and this is why it's important to line it up ahead of time, because if I would have put these down, I'd have been a hot mess. So I actually need to get this down before here for the chicks. So these legs are gonna need to go down first. So I need to get it underneath my chick. All right, so I've lined that up just like that. So if I would have not lined this up ahead of time, I would have messed up. So I would have had to go in there and cut some pieces away so it would actually line up underneath. So I'd had to cut off so it just kind of butt up against it, if you will. It would have been a disaster. I possibly could have lost those legs. So that's why it's very important to line it up ahead of time so you can visually even look at it. Next, you can see with parchment, it won't stick on it. So you can store this in a drawer if you want to, and you can make it for later. So if you want to prep up and have your stuff ready, and when you get a chance, you're going to be ready to pop those out, you could definitely do so. Because I could get this here, and then I could go around it just like this, and I can store it for later. So I've got a backing there just to protect it from getting yucky on that sticky adhesive part. I can put it with my onesie and set it aside until I pull out my home iron or whatever, or maybe I'm making a project for the kiddos to do on the weekend or the summer. So lots of different things you can do for that storage. That's just another little tip. So now we're gonna take our design here, and then we wanna figure out where the center is. So to do so, if you fold it, now it's on the side that's not sticky, I'm gonna fold it inwards and kind of get a crease there. So I'm just going to crease the top. This is gonna allow me to find that center. So now I can get it nice and high up here, because remember, if we go lower, you've got your pants coming in, that's gonna be on the tummy. So pay attention to that and go nice and high. So I've probably got about a finger or so up there, and then I'm just paying attention to the very center of the top of that, and that honestly looks good. So once again, you're paying attention because you're gonna have pants here. So imagine and see how much better that looks. Sometimes it's hard to visually look at it because you're like, ooh, I don't know, that's just so high. But fold it. Fold it to where your pants or your shorts are gonna go, and then visually look at it. So that's one way to do that, just to kind of figure it out. All right, so here we go. So now that we have our layers ready to go, before you actually even figure out the placement, one of the things that you probably want to do is go ahead and pre-press. So we're gonna go ahead and pre-press here for just around 5 seconds or so. I'm just going up and down, kind of like a home iron, ironing that out. And what that's going to do is pull out any sort of moisture, and it's gonna smooth everything out. So now you can see I've got a nice smooth surface. The next thing when it comes to heat transfer vinyl, you definitely want to let this cool back down, because if I go on here and start to stick this, all of this is going to start to melt, and then I can't pull back up these layers. It's going to be a mess. So let it kind of cool back down a little bit, and then we're going to get ready to press it. Now, while this is cooling down, let's talk tack down layer. So when you are working with layers like this, when it comes to heat transfer vinyl, you need to do what's called a tack down layer for around 2 seconds. So depending on what material you're using, for example, I have found when I use Cricut's heat transfer vinyl, iron on if you will, I have to do about a 5-second tack down to get it to adhere enough for me to be able to peel off that carrier sheet. So whatever brand you're using, do a test on that and figure out your number. So for me, the Siser EasyWeed is 2 seconds, Cricut is 5 seconds. So for 2 seconds, I'm gonna tack down in between layers. The reason why is your material will start to shrink as you're pressing it, just a minute. So if you're ever trying to line stuff up and you notice you can't get it to line up, what happened is you have shrunk one of those layers, and now they no longer mesh together. That's why it's very important to do that. And on top of it, you don't want to overheat. So I'm supposed to be pressing this 320 for 30 seconds. And if I did each layer, there's 5. Do 5 times 30. And that's how much I would be pressing this. And you don't want to do that because it's not going to last as long as it possibly could. So this is cooled down. We're ready to go. So what we're gonna do now is, like I've done before, we're gonna figure out that placement. I think this honestly looks great. I'm gonna get that down. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull away everything but his legs. All right, so now I'm just gonna hold on to my little feet here, and I'm gonna try to keep everything together. So I'm just going to pick up all my other layers. And so like I said, if you layer this to be exactly the way, I'll be able to lay this down again and then peel up the next one and so on and so forth. It just helps for going down in this direction. So that's why it's very important to do that. So we've got our little feet here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go right on top here, like I said, 2 seconds. Now, one thing to do is you're gonna slide down, and this is gonna help you avoid, which I still kind of did it there, is this moving on you. Sometimes when you lift up, you may notice your carrier sheet just lifts right up. If it does, what I like to do is take the bottom of my tool, I'll get that and I'll just pop it right off. Definitely don't touch it with your hands. All right, so we're just gonna smooth that down. All right, so same thing. I wanna kind of let this cool back down before I try to lay this back on, because I'm gonna lay this entire thing back on here. So I'm gonna go back in. All right, so I've got it lined up where I want it. So this one's going to be my chick. So we are going to get that. I'm gonna try to keep this purple layer together with it. Take everything else with us. There we go. Now you're gonna notice that his little feet are not covered. You could definitely use that same carrier sheet and just cover up his feet. So don't toss that guy out just yet. We're gonna go back on top here. We're gonna cover, and you're just gonna go for around 2 seconds. So just like that. This time I'm gonna be a little more careful. Just going down, and that's gonna help. So since I'm doing a tack down, this is normally a hot peel. You may wanna let it cool for just a second. So if I go down and I notice that it's not sticking down, I definitely don't need more heat. You possibly could, so if you try, go back in for another 2 seconds. But it may be that you just need to let it cool back down for just a second. So we're gonna go ahead and carefully peel this guy up, and it's definitely staying, so that looks good. Once again, you can hang on to this, so that way we can recover everything up. All right, so we're gonna let that cool for just a second, and we're gonna get ready for the next layer. All right, so we're going back down, we're gonna line it up. So I know the M and that E is what I'm paying attention to. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up everybody else. We're gonna leave that guy behind so you can see this entire side of the body and his legs is exposed. You can definitely keep going back in with those carrier sheets, or simply have yourself a Teflon sheet or a piece of parchment. So I'm just gonna use parchment here, that way I don't have to keep sticking all those little pieces down. And so we're gonna go right back on top, we're gonna hit go, and so we're just gonna go down for another 2 seconds, lift that back up, scoot it out of the way, give it a second to cool down, and we're gonna peel it again. All right, so mine's definitely not sticking, so I'm just gonna go down for a few more seconds, get a little bit more heat there. Scoot this back out of the way. And then once again, I'm gonna let it cool for just a second. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and carefully peel. I just start to try to find a corner or an angle that will let me in. I'm just gonna go nice and slow, because remember, we're not fully committed here. I have not done the entire 30 seconds, so this guy could rip, it could tear, it could come up with us. I'm gonna set this out of the way, and then we're gonna get our next one. So we're just gonna let it cool for just a second, and we're gonna line it up. I don't have to worry about this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and go down here. So I'm just gonna line this one up. So this one is going to be the E, as well as those pieces right there. Perfect. So now I'm gonna go back on top. I'm gonna do another 2 second tack down, possibly 3 this time, just to be 100% sure. All right, so we're gonna get that out of our way, let it cool for just a second. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and try to peel this one as well. So once again, I'm being real slow and gentle, just way I don't accidentally take anything up with me. So I'm gonna peel that. Get the dot of my eye there is trying to come up with me. There we have it, perfect. And now we're gonna go ahead and add his nose. So I'm gonna line it up with the sunglasses. So his nose is gonna go right there. We're gonna leave it behind. Do another quick tack down. So we're just gonna go ahead, 1, 2, that should be good to go. Get that out of the way. And for this one, we're gonna try to go ahead and peel. I have noticed with the Siser Sparkle as well, I don't know what it is, I feel like it tacks down so much better. Last piece. So here's the important thing on that last layer. So you see that it's just a little pair of sunglasses here, even if it was a little bit of a bigger design. If you ever press that very last layer, because the very last layer is going to be 30 seconds, right? And I go to lay this down, so I'm going to get this right here, so it's going to go right there. If I go to press this, you may notice a pressing line because that's wherever that carrier sheet is going to leave marks in your next layer. So if that happens to you, this is my tip. So yes, technically that is our last layer. We could go the full 30 seconds, but what I like to do is another 2-second tack down. So 1, 2, get that out of the way. Then I will peel this one and then we're going to do the final press. That way everything is one solid layer and smooth. It's going to really help sink that design deeper into the fabric and last a whole lot longer. All right, so we're ready. I believe we can go ahead and peel that one. He's so cute. He's adorable, but he's not ready yet. So we're ready. We're going to go ahead and go on top. We're going to press this for 30 seconds, 320 for 30 seconds. Whenever it comes to doing a baby onesie or maybe even a garment with seams that are getting in the way of your iron, you may want to use a pressing pillow. So a pressing pillow is very similar to a heat press pad, but it's got a lot more give. I'll have some link down below, but you can get those underneath those seams and it'll help to avoid that and you'll get that even pressure. But this one, the 9x9 is working pretty good here. So we've got the full 30 seconds. Now here is another important tip whenever it comes to using your Cricut Easy Press. They recommend that you flip the garment over and you press it again for 15 seconds. I highly recommend that you don't skip this step because what's going to happen is we're going to flip it, all right? We're going to press it. We're going to get back on top. We're going to press it for 15 seconds. Now it's going to heat the adhesive on the back side and it's really going to allow it to sink. I like where the material is now on the mat and it's kind of really just pushing it up in there. You're going to notice a smoother, I think we've got that there. You're going to notice a smoother feel to your HTV projects compared to if you skip that step. Now, if you have a bigger heat press, you don't have to do that because the bigger heat press has that pressure. So we cannot give enough pressure to the Cricut Easy Press to really accomplish that with just the one side. So it is recommended. I have honestly done it. We've all done it and got away with it and it's worked just fine. But if you do want to ensure that it's going to really sink that down into the fabric as well as last for years and years to come, I would highly recommend to follow that guideline there. Now with a bigger heat press as well, you see we have it at 320 for 30 seconds. If I was using a bigger heat press, I would have it around 310 for 12 seconds. It's less time and less heat as well when it comes to a bigger heat press. Now home iron, you want to put that thing up to usually around the cotton settings. And then you definitely want to make sure you're using a parchment paper or Teflon sheet to protect everything. And that's going to work for you. Now, when you're using a home iron, same thing, highly recommend you at the final step, flip it over for that 15 seconds. All right, so I'm gonna bring this guy up so hopefully you guys can see how stinking cute that is. I love it so, so much. I think it's just different too, because like I said, I do a lot of Easter bunnies here on the channel and I don't do a lot with the little chicks. And that yellow just pops off of here. You guys let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this one? Have you guys purchased this bundle? Do you plan on purchasing the bundle? Or maybe you're making your very first heat transfer vinyl project. We definitely wanna know all of the details in the comments below. And also, if you guys are new here, please remember to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you guys don't miss any of our crafting tutorials. I hope that you guys have either learned something new today or you guys have been inspired. If you have either one, once again, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.